Foolio's killers were just found dead in prison, only days after receiving their sentences. Now, all eyes are on law enforcement, with growing suspicion about how the entire case was managed.
I haven't seen more thorough policing than that. That almost leads me to believe that maybe the feds lent a hand, or some assets or resources, or maybe that they got a bigger case.
The case moved at lightning speed on now. With 2 suspects dead behind bars just days after being sentenced, people are asking the real question: who wanted them silenced, and why? Let's break it down. This isn't just about Julio, this is about the Foolio 5, and what's now being called the Florida bloodbath. Just days after being convicted for the cold, calculated murder of Jacksonville rapper Julio Joe, 2 of the accused were found dead in prison. And here's the part that has everyone on edge: rumors are circulating that this wasn't just another case of prison violence. This looked like retaliation, a hit, maybe even an inside job. Some are accusing law enforcement of not only failing to protect the suspects, but possibly turning a blind eye or worse. And believe it or not, the most disturbing detail of this story hasn't even been made public yet. If you thought Foolio's murder was tragic, or just another example of gang beef gone too far, you're missing the bigger picture. This was never just about one rapper. It was about revenge, power, and a justice system that feels more like a deadly game show than a court of law. So how did things fall apart so fast? How did 5 people, including a pregnant woman, end up tied to a murder that stunned the entire state of Florida, only for 2 of them to end up dead before even filing an appeal? Let's rewind. Julio Foolio, born Charles Jones, was no stranger to beef. He was a constant name in Florida's rap wars, known for diss tracks, viral Instagram stories, and dodging multiple assassination attempts. But to his fans, he wasn't just a troublemaker, he was a symbol of survival. That is, until June 23rd, when his story ended in a Tampa hotel parking lot home to suites near USF under a hail of 31 bullets. But this wasn't random, police say. 5 individuals drove over 3 hours from Jacksonville to Tampa with one goal: find Foolio and kill him. They tracked him through birthday club appearances, watched him hop from spot to spot, and waited for the perfect moment. The suspects: 30-year-old Rashard Murphy, 27-year-old Dave Murphy, 21-year-old Isaiah Chance, 21-year-old Elisa Andrews. Yes, the pregnant woman, and 18-year-old Sean Garrett weren't pros. They were young, reckless, and trying to make a name for themselves. But once the shooting happened, it didn't take long for the evidence to surface. Surveillance footage? Got it. Cell phone logs? Got those too. Ring camera footage showing them loading weapons like it was a behind-the-scenes video shoot. It's all there. According to Tampa PD, the suspects parked across from the hotel, waited for Foolio to arrive, and then struck. No panic, no hesitation, just straight-up execution. When the bullets stopped flying, Foolio was slumped in the passenger seat of a car riddled with rifle and handgun fire. And the most chilling part, after the murder, they celebrated.
Avion's done has texted his thirst has been quenched. And let's go pop a bottle of Don Julio when we get back to Jacksonville. So it's like, I don't know, bro. If you're looking at candidates to fry, like, that would be the one, right? Like, if you wanted to, okay, we have a death penalty. Who deserves it? Like that. I don't know. I would think it would.
They popped bottles. They bragged on social media. They allegedly laughed in private DMs like Foolio's murder was just another stat on a drill rapper scoreboard. But now, 2 of them are dead before they even reach the final phase of sentencing. This wasn't a trial. It was a countdown. Elisa Andrews, the only female suspect, and the one who was pregnant, didn't run. In fact, she cooperated with police almost immediately. And what she revealed changed everything. Investigators discovered that her phone had been tracking Foolio's location the entire night. Every club, every party, every move. She didn't pull the trigger, but according to law enforcement, she made the hit possible.
Last time we did an interview, Foolio had just gotten killed. Now, most of the people are caught. The girl that gave their location, she's cooperating.
Let that sink in. A 21-year-old pregnant woman is now staring down a life sentence, or possibly even the death penalty, all because she was sending her boyfriend and his crew live location updates. She wasn't pulling triggers, but she was feeding them the play-by-play. And now, all signs point to her flipping. According to court documents, Elisa Andrews is the only one of the 5 who didn't waive her right to a speedy trial. Legal experts say that's likely a calculated move, a setup for a plea deal, in hopes of avoiding a life sentence or even execution. She wants out, and she may be willing to trade names to save herself. Even Boosie chimed in, calling out law enforcement, saying officers were laughing about Foolio's murder behind closed doors, claiming the entire case reeked of bias and corruption. But it gets worse. Rashard Murphy, one of the alleged shooters, actually asked to represent himself in court in a death penalty case. Not traffic court, not small claims. A trial where the endgame is potentially a lethal injection. He thought he could beat the system solo. Spoiler, he couldn't. As reported by Fox 13, Rashard Murphy is now one of the 2 suspects found dead in prison under mysterious circumstances. Was it prison? Justice? Was it revenge tied to Foolio's street ties? Or was it something even darker, something from inside the system itself? The Florida Department of Corrections has a reputation for silence, not answers. And the facility where Elisa Andrews could end up, Lowell Correctional Institution, is no better. It's been repeatedly investigated for extreme inmate violence, staff abuse, and a toxic culture of fear. And now, she may be walking straight into it.
Gonna have her baby in jail. That baby will be taken away from her, and she'll have to serve the rest of her time. And she's going to do her very best to snitch as hard as possible to minimize her time in that jail so she can get with her newborn baby. Which
and
might not be
I'm gonna be honest too. Like, she's most likely still gonna get time. They're gonna send her to Lowell CI, and Lowell CI is a up spot. Like, you got getting bucked in there, so it's like you're like a famous, right?
As for the alleged shooters, they were transferred to Florida State Prison, a facility infamous for its dark history. We're talking guards charged with murder, inmates dying under mysterious circumstances, and cover-ups so wild they'd put a Netflix docuseries to shame. This is the kind of place where the system turns on its own, and that's exactly what many believe happened next. Just days after sentencing, both Rashard Murphy and Sean Garrett were found dead, gone, unconfirmed. Reports suggest one was killed during a fight with another inmate, possibly a hit arranged through gang ties. The other's cause of death, still under investigation. And just like that, a case that once seemed airtight is now unraveling in a way no one expected. 2 of the 5 are dead. Elisa Andrews is reportedly cooperating. And Dave Murphy, last to be captured, basically handed himself over. How he couldn't stay off social media. He was literally taunting people from Jacksonville, bragging that he ain't going nowhere. And he was right, because now, he's not going anywhere but prison.
His final, he's a dumb mother, because he was going on one of those like little chat things online, talking, saying, I'm gonna pull up, I'm gonna do this, and the whole time he was in Jacksonville. Like,
a man plotted an assassination, carried it out, and then did the unthinkable. He stayed in the same city where he knew the cops would look first. They called them the Foolio 5. But now it's down to 3, and there's already blood on the floor before the trial could even begin. Just when it seemed like the justice system finally had a grip on the case, everything started falling apart. Let's talk about Dave Murphy, the last one captured. But don't mistake that for cleverness. He didn't go off the grid. He didn't flee the state. He didn't vanish into another country. Instead, he stayed right there in Jacksonville, acting like nothing happened. Worse, he took 2 anonymous chat apps to post reckless, taunting messages, mocking the very people who were tracking him down. In one message, he straight up dared people to pull up on him. In another, he acted like he was bulletproof. And that false sense of invincibility, that's exactly what got him caught.
They just arrested the final suspect in Foolio's murder.
right.
He was on the run for 6 months. And there's a photo that we'll show right now. He's actually like smiling,
Yeah.
after they cuff him up. I guess, I don't know. He wants to act tough with his last
Yeah,
moments
that's
of
his
freedom.
final hoorah before it's honey buns and noodles for ever. That's his final. He's a dumb.
Davon never left the area. Authorities didn't need any high-tech tools to track him down. His own arrogance gave him away. This wasn't a man hiding from justice. This was someone chasing clout right up until the moment the cell doors slammed shut. But what Davon did before he got caught might hold the key to understanding everything that followed. Remember the name Spaz? Reportedly Davon's brother? Spaz was allegedly killed in a prior gang-related shooting tied to one of Julio's close associates. And Foolio, he didn't just respond in lyrics. He crossed every line. Videos surfaced of Foolio's affiliates urinating on Spaz's grave. Foolio himself even referenced the desecration in his music, mocking the dead in ways most rappers wouldn't dare speak, let alone record. Mob James laid it out clear. This was deeper than music. So when Davon and Rashard allegedly gunned down Foolio in that hotel parking lot, many believe it wasn't about a diss, it was personal. It was blood for blood. And that's where the story takes a disturbing turn, because the same people who laughed at Foolio's death, the same people who dismissed his mother's desperate cries for justice, are now the ones investigating how two of his accused killers ended up mysteriously dead while in state custody. Let's rewind. When Foolio was killed, he wasn't just being followed casually, he was being stalked. Surveillance footage, license plate readers, and even Cash App transactions helped authorities piece the entire plot together. One of the suspects allegedly used a Cash App card to book the hotel room. Another was caught on Tesla dashcam and Ring doorbell footage, openly loading what appeared to be case-style rifles into a vehicle. The evidence wasn't just strawn, it was cinematic.
You got the Teslas that are acting like sentries with 360 camera. It's the clearest camera ever, 4K.
This was a digital crime scene from start to finish. The suspects didn't just get caught, they practically built their own case with a trail of digital breadcrumbs that prosecutors are now picking apart piece by piece. But here's why that matters. When inmates like Richard and Sean turned up dead behind bars, the Florida prison system refused to give any clear answers. At first, their deaths were brushed off as routine inmate violence. But anonymous sources from inside suggest something far more sinister. Word had allegedly spread throughout the yard that Foolio's connections ran deeper than just rap, that people inside the prison knew exactly who his killers were and decided to serve justice the old-school way. One unverified account claims Richard was ambushed in a prison hallway, beaten severely, and then left without medical help for hours. Another story says Sean was killed in his sleep. These reports remain unconfirmed, but if there's even a shred of truth to them, then the real story isn't just that 2 suspects died. It's how it was allowed to happen and who made sure it did. Because if the Florida Department of Corrections is turning a blind eye, then this stops being a tale of gang retaliation and becomes something darker, state-sanctioned revenge. Just listen to what 1090 Jake said about Florida's prison system. It's a place where brutality is common, silence is enforced, and justice often comes at the end of a shank, not a gavel.
OCI is a up spot. Like, you got getting bucked in there. So it's like, you're like a famous rat. You know what I mean? But they more so be going after the girls that be killing their own kids and like crazy like that. But low CI, the Florida Department of Corrections doesn't f off. It's very much like it's war. You know what I mean? You got COs killing people, inmates killing people. So what they have to look forward to isn't anything nice. And then obviously if any of them get death, that's a whole nother different story.
This isn't speculation. It's a well-documented pattern. Florida's correctional institutions have long been notorious for excessive force, inmate deaths, and rampant abuse. And whether people want to admit it or not, the facts suggest this was never just about justice, it was about erasure. They didn't want a trial, they wanted silence. And they got exactly that, to suspect silenced forever. A system that delivered death before it could deliver a verdict. By the time the second body hit the prison floor, nobody was asking, asterisk, how did this happen? They were asking, asterisk, how did anyone not see this coming? Florida's prison system is no stranger to scandal, but the speed and secrecy surrounding the deaths of Richard Murphy and Sean Garrett, both accused of killing Foolio, sparked quiet conversations even within law enforcement circles. According to insiders, there were warning signs, fights, requests for protective custody, written complaints, all ignored. And here's the uncomfortable truth. There were people who wanted them dead. And in Florida State Prison, that kind of outcome can be arranged. Let's rewind. Richard Murphy faced first-degree premeditated murder charges like the rest of the group, but his case quickly spiraled. Court documents obtained by local media revealed that Richard filed to dismiss his attorney and represent himself. His courtroom behavior raised red flags, not just defiance, but deep frustration. He claimed he couldn't communicate with his lawyer and was being treated like he was already guilty. It wasn't just a breakdown in legal representation. It was a man unraveling under pressure in a system that may have already decided his fate.
This guy's nuts. I think that's why. I mean, he wants to defend himself, which is insane in a death penalty case. And then he actually has said that he may use an insanity defense, which also is insane in itself when the facts show otherwise, that these guys had meticulous planning and attempts to cover up crime. And when you have that, good luck in getting an insanity defense, because to sustain an insanity defense, you have to have an established medical condition, and you have to not know the difference between right and wrong. But when you meticulously plan and then try to cover up your tracks, that shows you knew the difference between right and wrong. It shows you knew what you did was illegal. And when you want to just try to put forward an insanity defense as your own lawyer, it doubles the level of difficulty.
Then came the letter. Richard Murphy wrote directly to the judge, claiming that deputies at the jail were intercepting his mail, restricting his phone calls, and preventing him from preparing a proper defense. This wasn't some theatrical performance. This was a man coming apart. And when desperation collides with reputation inside a Florida prison, it's a volatile mix that almost always ends in violence. We've seen it before. Back in 2012, Darren Rainey, a mentally ill inmate at Dade Correctional Institution, was boiled alive in a scalding hot shower by corrections officers, his skin reportedly peeling off in sheets. No one was charged for 4 years. In 2015, several guards at Franklin Correctional Institution were exposed as members of a white supremacist gang operating from inside the prison. And in 2020, A whistleblower revealed that guards at Lowell Correctional Institution, the same place where Elisa Andrews could be sent, were coercing female inmates into degrading acts under threats of violence. So when two young black men, freshly charged with murdering a well-known rapper, end up dead within days of their sentencing, that's not bad luck. That's a pattern, especially when gang affiliations are involved. Let's be clear, Foolio wasn't just a rapper. He was the face of a street movement known as 6 Block. A crew locked in a deadly years-long feud with rival groups ATK and 1200, according to law enforcement. These same rival crews are believed to have played a role in Foolio's murder for past killings and a cycle of violence that has left Jacksonville in chaos for years. And now, with bodies dropping in prison cells, it seems that cycle hasn't stopped. It's just moved behind the walls.
Something in Jacksonville that is very well known. These videos, both by our victim as well as by the rival gangs, are posted immediately. It's in the public domain, and it details this long-standing feud.
Foolio's own lyrics often referenced real-life killings, blurring the line between music and street warfare. His visuals were just as provocative, frequently showing blatant disrespect toward the graves of his rivals. In one of the most infamous incidents, affiliates linked to Foolio were seen desecrating the grave of a rival believed to be Spaz, who was reportedly the brother of Rashard and Davon Murphy. This act wasn't just about disrespect, it was a deeply personal provocation that many believe played a direct role in fueling the deadly retaliation that followed.
That's the same guy who, after the murder, allegedly sent out a text, "I'm coming home, my thirst is finally quenched." Like, it was a mission for him. So, I mean, if we're talking about motive, that's classic get back, right? Hey, his people did something to my brother. They kept laughing about it. They've desecrated his gravesite. This is a rapper who's been known to make videos at gravesite or laugh at the dead. Now we get to laugh.
That text wasn't just a flex, it was a blood oath fulfilled. And when beef that personal spills into a Florida prison system where gangs, guards, and internal politics collide, doesn't just become dangerous, it becomes a war zone. 1090. Jake, a former inmate turned prison reform advocate, has called Florida's jails and prisons nothing short of urban battlegrounds. According to him, fights are expected, extortion is routine, and murder isn't an outlier, it's strategy. So when 18-year-old Sean Garrett reportedly died in custody, no one flinched. But they should have, 18 charged with murder, facing the death penalty, and now, he's dead before a judge or jury ever got to hear his side of the story. Did he even grasp what he was stepping into? Because here's what people often forget. Most of the Foolio 5 were barely out of high school. They weren't seasoned killers. They were digital-age kids, pulled into a war they didn't start, driven by loyalty, clout, and retaliation. And now, 2 of them are dead. But why isn't anyone talking about the system's role in all of this? Why? Is there more outrage over a diss track than there is over multiple inmate deaths under state supervision? It's easier to label these young men as monsters than it is to ask the uncomfortable questions, like why were high-risk, high-profile defendants thrown into general population within days of being sentenced? Why were Rashard Murphy's written complaints ignored? Who authorized the placement of gang-affiliated inmates into rival housing pods? And the most chilling question of all, who benefits from their silence? Because dead men don't testify, dead men don't flip, dead men don't expose the deeper layers of a war that could stretch beyond the streets, possibly into law enforcement, and even politics. Make no mistake, this war is deeper than rap. Now let's rewind to the night it all came to a head. Was in Tampa, celebrating his birthday? He documented the entire night on Instagram, clubs, parties, selfies, and finally, a quiet stop at the Home to Suites hotel. What he didn't know was that his every move was being watched, followed, tracked, and within hours, the trap was set.
Jones was in town celebrating his birthday and posted on his social media his locations several times throughout that night. Surveillance video was critical in this investigation, as suspects were seen on video following Jones from location to location.
Unbeknownst to him, a team of 5 was on his trail to cars, multiple firearms, and a 3-hour drive from Jacksonville, all fueled by vengeance. Elisa Andrews, the only female in the group, reportedly played a key role by tracking Foolio's every move through text messages, GPS logs, and social media updates. Investigators say she helped paint a digital map of his exact location throughout the night. They knew when he was at the Airbnb. They knew the moment he arrived in Tampa. They shadowed him from club to club, watching and waiting. And when the time came, they struck. Foolio didn't die instantly, but he never stood a chance. He was found slumped in the front passenger seat of a car, his body riddled with bullets. 3 other people were injured in the barrage, but none of them were the intended target. And here's the part that should chill anyone to the bone. Every single step of the murder was caught on camera, from the suspects packing weapons to the execution itself. The entire crime played out under the unblinking eye of surveillance. There was no mystery, just cold, calculated violence.
Caught on license plate cameras. He used his mama's car. His mama said, I had that car in myself.
Surveillance footage, license plate readers, Ring doorbell videos, phone logs, Cash App receipts. Every move the suspects made left a digital footprint. It wasn't just a crime, it was a trail of evidence unfolding in real time. From the moment they left Jacksonville to the second Foolio pulled into that hotel parking lot, the entire operation was tracked. Cameras caught them packing weapons. Phones revealed their coordination, and financial apps tied them directly to hotel bookings and travel plans. This wasn't just solved by detectives, it was solved by technology.
Found bullets in that kid's house. They found one of the murder weapons. They found bullets matching from the shooting scene. This kid kept collectibles from the case, like mad inside of his house.
The level of evidence in this case is almost unprecedented, so overwhelming that even 1090 Jake, a former inmate and prison reform advocate, remarked it felt less like a murder investigation and more like a fully documented operation. According to him, the digital trail left behind was so detailed, from surveillance videos to Cash App transactions, it's as if the suspects filmed their own conviction in real time.
It's not like they're going to get off for this.
No, they got so much evidence against them. Like, when you go through it, you can pretty much just, all right, pick a prison. Where do y'all want to go? It's just not, you can't even come up with a defense for.
They were done the moment they pulled the trigger, but the system didn't wait for a trial or a verdict. It made its own judgment, acted as judge, jury, and executioner. And now, only 3 remain. A pregnant woman, a fugitive who thought Instagram clout made him untouchable, and a man scrambling to build an insanity defense as a death penalty trial looms. This isn't just a hip-hop headline, it's a full-blown death spiral. And the most disturbing part? Nobody wins. Julio Foolio is dead. 2 of his alleged killers are also dead before their cases could even make it through court. One woman may give birth in shackles, the rest, they're staring down decades behind bars or execution. But zoom out, and this isn't just about one case. Across the country, drill rappers are being killed in coordinated hits. Retaliation murders go viral like TikToks, and young black men are being funneled into a justice system that seems more focused on spectacle than on solutions. The question isn't just who did it. The question is who allowed this? Who allowed these young men to be radicalized into a digital war where death earns likes and loyalty gets lives? Who allowed a prison system to become the second executioner? And when the next rapper dies, will we keep pretending to be shocked or finally admit the truth? This isn't music anymore. It's a meat grinder. Unless something changes, it's only going to get worse. This was execution before verdict. By the time the dust settled, the body count wasn't just tragic, it felt calculated. Julio Foolio, dead at 26. Sean Garrett, dead at 18. Rashard Murphy, dead before he could file a single appeal. And now, the state of Florida is preparing to do something it hasn't done in decades: seek multiple death penalties in a rap-related case. Let that sink in. In the wake of Foolio's execution-style killing, Florida prosecutors are pushing for capital punishment against at least 2 of the remaining suspects. Davion Murphy, the same man who laughed on live chats and bragged about staying in Jacksonville like he was invincible, and Elisa Andrews, the pregnant woman who allegedly tracked Foolio's every move that night. She now faces the possibility of spending the rest of her life behind bars. But here's the question no one's saying out loud. Is this really justice or just vengeance dressed in paperwork? Let's talk about what's happening behind the scenes. In April, State Attorney Susan Lopez stood at a podium, flanked by local police and federal agents, holding a press conference that sounded more like a victory speech than a murder update. 5 suspects charged, multiple firearms recovered, dozens of phone logs, text messages, and GPS pings turned over as evidence. You'd think they had just taken down a drug cartel, and in a way, they had, because this isn't about just one murder. It's about a years-long blood feud between Jacksonville's most dangerous rap collectives, 8K 1200 and 6 Block. And if the courts succeed in handing out death sentences, it'll mark the first time this war has been punished at the highest level. But ask any defense attorney or prison reform advocate, and they'll tell you the evidence might be overwhelming, but the motives run deeper than any headline can explain. Take Rashard Murphy, for example, one of the men charged, and later found dead. According to court records, he was attempting to mount an insanity defense. He tried to fire his attorney, filed handwritten motions to the court, and claimed jail staff were abusing him and blocking his access to prepare for trial. Legal analyst Dave Ehrenberg later explained that while Rashard may have shown signs of mental instability, it likely didn't meet the legal threshold for insanity. But the fact that he was trying to build that defense at all says something bigger. This wasn't a cold-blooded killer. This was someone cracking under pressure inside a system that had already made up its mind.
That's why he may have a screw loose, but it doesn't mean he satisfies the requirements of an insanity defense.
But now Rashard Murphy is gone. The trial will move forward without him. That's not a victory, that's a warning. Florida's prison system is swallowing people whole before they even make it to conviction. And this isn't some one-off tragedy. Human rights organizations have documented dozens of similar cases. Pretrial defendants dying under suspicious circumstances, mentally ill inmates dumped into general population, high-profile suspects denied basic protections, and internal investigations that vanish without a trace of accountability. It forces us to ask a chilling question. Are we sentencing people or setting them up? Let's shift the focus back to Elisa Andrews. She's 21, pregnant, not accused of firing a single shot, but under Florida's felony murder laws, her alleged role in the planning makes her just as responsible as that alone puts her on the hook for life in prison or worse. And here's the twist. Insiders say she's been cooperating from the very beginning. Prosecutors haven't confirmed it publicly, but multiple sources close to the case suggest Andrews started talking the moment she was in custody. She didn't run. She didn't lawyer up and stay silent. She gave them a timeline, locations, and possibly more now. The question is, what will that cooperation cost her or save her?
Alicia, the girl, she gave an interview with police right when she got picked up. So she's already spoke to them and confirmed, oh yeah, we were...
Her phone was directly linked to Foolio's movements across Tampa, providing a digital roadmap of his final hours. And unlike the other defendants, Elisa Andrews chose not to waive her right to a speedy trial, a move that speaks volumes. Legal experts believe it's a strategic decision, likely aimed at fast-tracking a plea deal in exchange for her cooperation. In other words, she's trying to get ahead of the storm before it swallows her whole.
They just recently did it where the girl isn't waiving her right to a speedy trial, and they believe she's going to cooperate.
Right. Actually, one of my members, Kilcon RL, mentioned that. He said Alicia Andrews, who's the girl who's pregnant, she asked for a speedy trial, but the other three waived.
Right.
Waived that. So yeah, I guess that means she's...
So now the question is, what exactly is Elisa Andrews saying, and who might be dragged in next? According to multiple sources, including an explosive discussion on DJ Academic's platform, Foolio's murder wasn't just some spurvium. Street hit was personal, deeply personal. Many now believe it was retaliation for the death of Spaz, the brother of one of the shooters. Not only was Spaz allegedly killed by someone in Foolio's circle, but viral footage shows someone desecrating his grave, urinating on it in broad daylight. That wasn't just disrespect, that was humiliation. And humiliation breeds rage. That rage, in turn, became a mission. Foolio's death wasn't random. It was premeditated, documented, and possibly even sanctioned by higher-ups within the local gang hierarchy. And now comes the bigger bombshell. Multiple criminal justice insiders say a sealed federal indictment could be on the way. There are whispers that federal agencies weren't just observing, they were actively involved in the investigation from day one. Sources claim feds subpoenaed Cash App records, pulled tower pings from cell phones, traced vehicle movements across multiple counties, and even tapped into encrypted chat apps. That level of surveillance doesn't point to just 5 people, it points to something much bigger. Think RICO, the kind of sweeping criminal conspiracy case we saw with YSL in Atlanta. And if that's what's coming, the Foolio 5 might be just the beginning. If Elisa flips, if Davion Murphy decides to cooperate to save himself, and if the feds already have wiretaps or surveillance audio, then we could be looking at a citywide gang takedown. One that might involve more suspects than there are courtrooms available to process them. And through all the clout chasing, courtroom drama, and online speculation, one fact remains. Foolio is gone. A controversial figure, yes. A provocateur, absolutely. But also a young man who used music to express his life, his trauma, and his truth. He lived by the rules of the streets and ultimately died by them. But even with all the controversy, he didn't deserve to die that way. Neither did 2 teenagers, who were taken out before they even saw a judge. So now what? Will Dave Murphy survive long enough to stand trial? Will Elisa Andrews give prosecutors the names they've been waiting to hear? Will Florida actually send young defendants to death row in the first rap-related capital case of its kind? And what about the next generation watching all this unfold? The kids? The fans? What message are they getting? That snitching gets you killed. That silence gets you life. That even the systems might not wait for a verdict. It's a vicious loop end right now. We're all trapped in it because at this point, it's no longer just about who pulled the trigger. It's about the system that handed them the gun, ignored every red flag, and now acts shocked by the aftermath. This story isn't over. In fact, it's just beginning. We've got more explosive updates on this unfolding. Saga, just click one of the suggested videos to keep watching.